Hey guys, welcome back to the Air Warfare Group. This is Juice. So I thought I'd do this little video to share with you guys my thoughts on dogfighting in DCS World. Often I get comments about, hey, I'd like to see some more action. And I have a few friends that invite me to go over to these public servers to do dogfights and everything. And I said, I'm kind of moved past that. It's not like it's below me or anything like that. I have done dogfights for a long time. I started PC gaming in 1987, and for the long time, the Jane Sims back in the early 90s and early to late 90s were all about dogfighting. It seemed like nobody was doing missions. Everybody was going in public servers and we're just hosing people, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But what I wanted to say is the reason I don't do dogfighting in DCS World, because I don't think it's realistic. I think to go in and go against a bunch of other people in an unknown situation with all of your teammates that are on your side, half of them you haven't briefed with, half of them you haven't trained with, and half of them you're not even communicating with. It's unrealistic to me. So I just don't do it, because I would rather set something up, and you'll hear about what we set up to do that in DCS World with the Air Warfare Group in the later on in this video. Now, Waldo Waldman, not a dear friend, but a fellow Panton. We separated at Kunzan by 3 years, two and a half years. I got there in 92, 93. He got there in 95. And Waldo met my wife at a conference that he was a guest speaker at for her work down in Georgia. And he was a motivational speaker. If you guys look up Waldo Waldman, you'll see his videos on YouTube. He's a really great guy. His mantra is never fly solo, always have a wingman, and I believe that true to heart. If I was going to go in to do a dogfight, I would make sure I had at least one wingman. I'd like to have 4, and I'd like to have all of us up to speed before we go dogfight. And that's just me. Nothing wrong with the way you guys do it, or some of the people I know out there are doing it way even more hardcore than I do. But Waldo was, after the speech that he gave and everything, he got to go around and meet with some of the employees, or they got to line up and meet him. And when my wife got up to him, she goes, my husband was a Panton. She goes, really? And he goes, what did he do? He says he was life support, and he gave her an extra coin just for me. He gave her a coin that says never fly solo. So we have 2 of them, of Waldo's coins. It's pretty cool. I'll have to do a feature on all my coins when I get a chance to get them out of storage. So I mentioned the Jane series. This is from Jane's F-15 Strike Eagle. Back in the day, I'll say that this was right around 2000, 2001. And Dog 131 lived about 80 miles north of me in California. I actually met him and another DCS or Jane's player at a bar for a drink one day. We got together online. It was just back in the days before VoIP. This is when you had to hit tab and type to people and stuff like that. And the reason I bring up Jane's is I was in a group called the 9th Virtual Fighter Squadron. It was a carryover from the 5th Virtual Fighter Squadron, but we had this guy, and his name was Talon. And for me, if you knew me and you know me now, I'm all about training, because it's more realistic than dogfighting. Because you train, and when I was in the Air Force for 20 years, I worked with pilots of all kinds, and I worked in fighter organizations for 5 of my 20 years. And the training is the paramount. You got to train. As a matter of fact, I would say 95% of the time you're training for that 5% chance you're going to go to war combat, or even just do deterrence combat. Sometimes the goal is not to go down and shoot down every MiG or Sukhoi in the Russian inventory. A lot of times it's to go and put up a barrier to prevent that from happening, and that's real. That's more realistic and more fun to me, because it takes a lot of stuff, and you'll see in the rest of the video here what it takes to do it. So Talon, he was a young guy, originally from Russia, but lived in Canada, in Montreal, or in Toronto. And Talon, this is like 20 years ago. Talon called me out and says, "Hey, Juice, why don't you dogfight more?" And I said, well, I like to. I mean, I've done it plenty of times in the past, but I want to do more than just jump in and go airquake on people. And he called me out. He says, "Oh, so you're not good enough?" And I said, "I'll tell you what, let's go up against each other and I'll let you win." And I said, and what I did is I said, "You know what? Before we even go up against each other, you win. You're the better pilot." And he goes, "No, come on, man." And he kind of called me out. He didn't say anything derogatory, anything like that, but he called me out. And I said, you know what? This guy had called me out for months before. Wanted to call me out. He wanted to see what I was made of. So I said, okay, one day I agreed to a dogfight with him. Jane's F-15 Strike Eagle. no shots till the merge. So what I did is we jumped on a public server. I didn't set it up. I didn't have anything to do. We started out at about 5,000 AGL, nose to nose, like 10 miles, and we had no face shots. We couldn't shoot until after we had a 3 to 9 merge, and he agreed and I agreed. So we push out. We launch just he and I 1v1, mano e mano or whatever, hand to hand. And what we do is we go head to head. And I push it in the burner, he pushes it in the burner. We get lock on each other. We can see our closure speed close to 900 knots. We're pushing in on each other, closure speed. And we get about 4 miles from each other. I throttle back, hit the speed brake, roll inverted, and pull. And I do a downward split S. And you know what? He does the same thing. He knows I'm going to go for the deck and reverse. He does the same thing. But guess what? He didn't pull back his throttle. He didn't put out his speed brake, and he didn't slow down. And I made the turn, went down low. He's crashed right in the ground. And the rules was first person to die loses, and he died. And then when I did it, I told him forever. I said, "You're always going to meet somebody better than you out there." And he goes, this young guy, probably 17, 18 years old, goes, "I see what you mean, Juice." He understood. So I think when we get people come to DCS World, they get a lot of videos on YouTube from some of those other YouTube creators that put out these prolific, if I say that word correctly, and if I think it means what I mean, it means the overproduction, oversaturation production of content that is all this unrealistic 1v1 aircraft against aircraft, and it seems to be some channels do it over and over and over. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. It's great entertainment. It brings people into the DCS community, and I wish them well. Other channels that are out there, you get stuff like unrealistic stuff, like how many aircraft can land on the carrier at the same time, or stuff like this. This is something I created just as a mockery, but it's can you land on a bomber? Little things like that really do bring in people into DCS World, but I think it attracts the type of people that think of DCS World as just simply a game when it can be much more. It could be a full spectrum simulator if you make it that way. Now, what we've done in Air Warfare Group, a lot of us are virtual aviators, a lot of us are real aviators, and a lot of us are real military aviators. And I'm not. I'm just a private pilot that served with fighter pilots for most of my career. However, all of the guys that I work with in the Air Warfare Group are dedicated to the live virtual constructive facets that we can do in DCS World, and they've done that by coming to the Air Warfare Group, say, "Hey, I want to be part of something like this." And we recently started expanding. We started out with 2 people 3 years ago, and now we're up to, I think, 20 people over three different areas. But in the live virtual constructive preset that we put into DCS World, or the prefect that we put into DCS World, is live is actual human players in the actual aircraft. So if there is a flight of 2, there are no AI in there. If there's a package of 2 helicopters or 4 F-16s, or a couple A-10s, we actually have, we have guys that are flying the A-10s, and they're supporting a guy in a helicopter picking up rescuing a guy on the ground. We've done that. Whether it's combat or training, something like this, we go out and do the Case 3 profile. We do it as a team. We practice that commence time. We practice that 1 mile separation, 1 minute separation, and we take it all the way down to the deck. And we brief it and debrief it every time. Now, the virtual is one of those things where we actually use what is available in DCS World, whether it's the Airboss, air traffic control, when it works correctly, AWACS, the tanker crew that gives us gas, and even our JTACs. And then we go a little step further with the JTACs. We use the JTAC mod, and then we also use programs like LOT-ATC and SRS radios to make it a little bit more realistic. And we'll put an actual JTAC on the ground, or a simulated JTAC on the ground of a person that is out there calling it in. It has a little bit of training. I mentioned that we use LOT-ATC. Diart of France is going to be on our show on one of our Bottle the Throttle podcasts. We're going to get him on to talk about the LOT-ATC program, and we have a couple of real-world air traffic controllers and pilots that are going to talk about how it's enriched their DCS experience. And so stay tuned for that. But LOT-ATC is really cool because it gives, the scope dope a little thing to look at, gives you a top-down perspective. You can also, get all kinds of information interlaced with that. This is a little chart that explains a lot of the functions of DCS World, of LOT ATC within DCS World. Here we are on the Caucasus map, and you can see all those labels that point out what all that information means for people that aren't used to it. The air traffic controller can bring up airfield information, bring up weather, if it's available. You can get all of this information, and it really enriches the situation, allows us to go out and do that, 95 and 5, I call it, part of the war and training balance. Now, on the DCS constructive, it really means creative. In the real world, LVC and the constructive and LVC is making bots into the system so that you think something's there that's not, but it frees up the airspace, but allows you to manage the threat. And then what we do in the LVC for us, the creative part, is we use programs like Combat Flight. And Combat Flight allows us to go ahead and plug our missions, calculate our fuel loads, see our relationship to the threats, see our times en route, our times in altitude, and stuff like that. So we can do this, we can load it in per flight, and then we can take and turn that into a knee board, which gives the information to somebody, allows them to have this when they hit the K or Shift K to bring it up and hold it. They can look at this information on their knee, make a decision, get a frequency, and really effectively fly the mission. And none of that is done without a full briefing. Our briefings last an hour to hour and 15 minutes sometimes. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll do a briefing and we'll video it, and then guys that couldn't be at the briefing can watch the video before they show up for the mission. We are spread out amongst multiple time zones, and this really helps out. And that's another part of the creative that you have to get good with. Whether it's an established procedure on how you get into a certain airfield or base, we follow those as much as we can per DCS World. Now, this was taken from a DCS World F5 campaign, but it almost matches and mimics the arrivals that we do at Nellis Air Force Base, which is our main training base. I recommend everybody on the sale, if you don't own Nellis in NTTR map, go ahead and buy it. Another thing that we've done, this is a shout out for our member Gumby. Gumby is working with us on projects where he is saying, hey, I want to do more, boss, give me some more stuff. So I say, well, we created this Syria map that you can look up. If you go Air Warfare Group Syria Range, Syria Bombing Range, you'll find a video and tons of posts about a mission we made where we actually put targets on the range. If you go back in our history, I know a lot of you guys are new, but you need to go look at our playlist and just thumb through our video history, look at the newest to the oldest, and see if there's anything that catches your eye, because there's a lot of stuff that I get questions about or comments about in the comments that I go, yeah, we have that in our playlist, or yeah, we have that in our history, and I link them to it. But I can't link it to everybody unless you guys go ahead and get familiar with the channel. Well, Gumby, we had a new range. We basically built it from scratch on the northwesterly corner of Cypress Island, and Gumby went out and created this for our knee board right here. We put it into Combat Flight and then exported it out to the mission so everybody has it. So we even have a little mock village, and this is so that we have some targets that we can do talk-ons with color-coded buildings, intersection calls and stuff like that. And this right here allows us to have no drop zones or mitigation zones that we have to reduce risk so we don't have collateral damage. So we play it to the real. We just don't go in and level the whole town because we have one strategic target we have to take out. When we plan our missions, we actually go to the big board or the big picture first, and we look at the overview. We look at the airspace. We part of that constructive thing is, yeah, I know there's a border up here between this country and this country, and I know that they have Russian fighters or enemy fighters, and they have SAM sites and IADs, or Integrated Air Defense Network, up there that we have. We don't need to put all that in on our mission because that just lags out the mission. We've got guys joining from all around the world. We've got guys joining with all different types of PCs with different kind of capabilities and internet connections. And so we don't need to add extra stuff that we can just say, well, we're not going over there. That's not part of our mission. And you know what? If we had a situation where we say, okay, we're going in to do this strike mission. We're going to escort in, escort out. We've got a little bit of, let's say we got 2 Tomcats coming off the carrier that are going to cover us. But if a group of fighters came in over that mission, we also know in the real world there'd be teams and teams of F-15s and other aircraft that would be doing bar cap, barrier cap, and Don't get me wrong. I'm trying to think of the word, but there's other different types of assets that would be out there. So we go ahead and in our creative minds, we push that I believe button, and I believe, okay, that's already taken care of, so I don't have to worry about it. So you don't have to throw all this crap in your missions to get it to be enriching. As a matter of fact, what we do is we do one leg of the mission, we throw in the assets we need, and then when we do another leg of the mission, we take out the assets we don't need and then add the new assets that we do need. You know, little things like studying the terrain, doing this in the briefing, getting the scale of everything. You know, you look at it on the F10 map, and if you're flying and you're trying to do the F10 and the zoom and everything, and then you got to look up and you know, where did my wingman go? Where did my lead go? And you know, that kind of stuff. We even go through and find stuff on the map that's already there that you don't have to add any assets to. You don't have to put any of the 476 objects on. What you can do is you can go and find an industrial area and then go ahead and look at it and say, hey, you know what? That would make a new a neat power station. That would make a nuclear reactor right there, cooling tower. And what this does is this tells you, if you look at target 1 and target 2, dash 3 and dash 4, dash 1 and dash 2 are striking target 1, dash 3 and dash 4 are striking target 2. They're coming in from the southeast and they're egressing north. And you can see reactor and power station. You think, well, why do I have those marked? I said, well, the power station is the infrastructure for this area, and we don't want to shut off to the other civilians and everything. And the nuclear reactor, the reactor cooling tower, we wouldn't want to hit that. We create an environmental catastrophe. So we try to do it as real as possible, where you just can't go out there and flood it with bombs and call it good. It's not World War II anymore. Guys, I really appreciate it. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, but more importantly, get into DCS World and try some Warbirds. We're going to be hosting, a lot of us in Air Warfare Group are going to be joining up with 4YA servers. They're the old Aerobatics Online that I used to fly with 7-8 years ago when I first got into DCS World. A really good group of guys over there. We're going to be meeting on April 14th on their server. I'll have information in the description below that you need to get into their Discord. But pretty much April 14th at 21Z. If you guys don't have a tally on Z, what Zulu time is, or GMT, just go ahead and Google Air Warfare Group Zulu and find out how to make a Zulu clock as an extra clock on your Windows clock. So, you know, I'll let you Google and search that. That'll help you. A lot of people ask me, Juice, can you give me the link to this, or can you do that? And I tell them what to search, because the amount of information that you will find, even if it's accidentally, will benefit you later, because I have found so many good resources by looking for one, and I find these other things. And so if you take that search out of your life, you're going to miss out on a lot of stuff. And I know I've been long-winded here. I really appreciate you guys listening to the video. If you've listened to this part here all the way to the end and everything, I appreciate it. Let me know in the comments that you listened all the way to the end, and definitely tell me what you guys think and what you guys have found in your successes in DCS World. Remember, it's not dogfighting, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, you know, to me that's the game side of it, to jump in and just do air quake all the time. I'd rather get with a few quality friends and do missions like this. And if you guys like to do that too, definitely get with me. We'll show you how to team up with other servers out there that are doing the same thing that you guys can team up with. Until the next video, you guys stay safe. This is Juice, out.